My name is Rachel Gettings, and this is my persuasive speech. The federal minimum wage was introduced in 1938 during the Great Depression under President Franklin D. Roosevelt. It was set at 25 cents per hour and has been increased 22 times by Congress since then. As of right now, minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. Proponents of a higher minimum wage state that the federal minimum wage is way too low for anyone to live on, and that the higher one will help create jobs and grow the economy. Opponents think that a lot of businesses cannot afford to pay workers more and that they would be forced to close, reduce hiring, and lay people off. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, over 2.5 million workers, or 3.3% of the hourly paid working population ages 16 and over, earned at or below the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour in 2015. Workers earning below the federal minimum wage of $7.25 include full-time students who can be paid no less than 85% of the federal minimum wage, workers with disability who can be paid a wage corresponding with their productivity, new hires under the age of 20 who may be paid $4.25 an hour for the first 90 calendar days of employment, and tipped workers who may be paid less than the federal minimum wage but whose cash tips must make up their take-home pay to equal the minimum wage. There have been recent proposals to move the minimum wage to $7.25 since 2009, when it was moved to $7.25, to move it higher. The two main efforts are the Harkin-Miller proposal to raise the wage to $10.10 and the living wage movement to raise the wage to $15. The public had their own opinions, of course. A 2017 poll by University of Maryland and Voice of the People found that 73.8% of Americans support raising the minimum wage to $9 per hour, while 56.8% support raising it to $10.10 an hour. The ranks of the working poor across America are growing, while low-paying industries such as food and retail accounted for 22% of the jobs lost in the Great Recession. They've generated 44% of jobs added since then. Most minimum wage workers aren't teenagers these days. They're major breadwinners who need a higher minimum wage in order to keep their families out of poverty. The gains from a higher minimum wage extend beyond those who receive it. More money in the pockets of low-wage workers means more sales, which creates faster growth and more jobs. A major reason the current economic recovery is inadequate is that so many Americans lack the purchasing power to get the economy moving again. With a higher minimum wage, we would all end up paying less for Medicaid, food stamps, and other assistance the working poor now need in order to have a minimally decent standard of living. So raising the minimum wage would altogether help the economy.